Welcome to my podcast. My name is Corrina and I come to you from the Pacific Northwest, where I live with my partner, 2 horses that I adopted from the Bureau of Land Management Wildhorse Adoption Program, and 2 kitties that we adopted from the local animal shelter. Information about these adoption programs will be in the show notes for every episode. Originally, I created this podcast to be accountable for my knitting projects and horsemanship, the way in which sentient beings are being cared for and communicated with in a highly intuitive and respectful way is another passion and is woven into each episode. And finally, gardening is often featured in each episode because I believe that growing our own organic vegetables or other produce as much as possible is a way to care for ourselves, the environment, and each other. These themes are integrated to express kindness and respect for each other. If you are a crafter, please grab your project, something nice to drink, and join the kindness revolution from wherever you are. I believe that even the smallest acts of kindness, thinking about kindness, sparks positive change. The horses have it right. What is good for the herd is good for the individual. I'm out in the pasture with the boys. Just turned them out. Here's the mama. The baby, I think, just went over the crest of the hill there. Let's see if I can get a little closer. Not scaring anyone. See if I can. Well, I'm not sure where the baby is. There's Odin. There's Bragi. Well, the baby has obviously gone on to safety. I have a couple pictures though. Good morning, everyone. As I walk out to the barn this Tuesday morning, July 15th, 2025, I've been hearing a lot of Swainson's thrushes, and usually they're only around here for a couple months. They arrive in May, so I'm wondering if this is kind of the last of it. I guess I'll find out later this week. Thought I'd give you a little bit of a garden tour because over the weekend I pulled out all the rhubarb out of this bed and dug out the crowns. At least I hope I got all of them because rhubarb thrives here. Kind of takes over. Oh, I see some asparagus coming up. That's awesome. But it leaves quite a bit of more room in my garden bed for fall planting. So I am going to put down my bucket and pick this little asparagus. Blueberries are coming on. This asparagus might be a little past its prime, but probably still okay. Just snap off the tip. Some other things in here past their prime. The tomatoes are doing great. Pick up the bucket again. So the rhubarb is going to one of Randy's colleagues who's building a house, and they love rhubarb. So I dug up 5 crowns. And I was going to plant them over on that right side of the porch there where they couldn't really take over anything I didn't care about. Oh, more asparagus. It's exciting. But we have so much rhubarb. There's, I don't know if you can see, just, how about there? So there's some rhubarb just beyond the porch railing there. Pardon me while I pick up my bucket. And then there's also some rhubarb behind the raspberries under the 2 apple trees, which is plenty. And so I harvested all that rhubarb. I was like, what in the world am I going to do with all that rhubarb? Because, as you might know, a lot of times rhubarb is used for desserts, pies and cobblers and crisps and so on and so on. And there's a lot of sugar in those. And I've been trying to cut back on sugar because with my recent injury, there's a lot of inflammation in my body. And I am trying to help my body out as much as possible and reduce sugar. So I found a recipe online. Gaz Oakley, whose podcast I watch occasionally, he's a vegan and a gardener who lives in Wales. Still need to do something with that. I may still move those other rhubarbs that I was talking about over there. Anyway, he ferments rhubarb like pickles. So I thought I would try it, and I ended up with 8 quarts. So zucchini doing pretty good. So it's going to take at least a couple weeks. I haven't really noticed any bubbling up yet in the, look at the beans. Beans are late. Cucumbers, stuff I planted. So all that to say, I hope we like it. Otherwise, I may end up digging up this other rhubarb. I think that's a melon, but I will find out. And I don't know, maybe just keep one plant. So, I've got some stuff coming up. So this is broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts, and then some carrots, and I can't remember what that other thing is. I have it all labeled, and then stuff I recently planted here. Just, there's herbs all right there. And some tomatoes I transplanted from cuttings. Right there, and right there. And here's the other rhubarb I was referring to. So this one's in a pot, and it survived the winter, it survived a lot of neglect, it survived the drought that we're having, and I hardly ever water it, but probably move that over to that other side that I was talking about. So I'll let you know, I'll keep you posted on the fermented rhubarb. I mean, if you like fermented pickles, I suppose that would be something. Here is more, sorry about that, my finger kind of locked up. So here is more broccoli and cauliflower and lettuce and peas, and then my tomatoes that are trying so hard. And I planted some lettuce seeds in these, but they aren't doing anything. So I may just have to dump these and just start over. So artichoke and some peppers here. And then here are the other tomato cuttings that I'm still waiting for them to root, and they root very easily. So I'll keep you posted on the fermented rhubarb and everything else that's going on in the garden. Sorry about that. That was a terrible view. So there's the mint and a cabbage and some kale that's doing quite well. Cleaned up the parsley pot and then some herbs and kale in that one. Here is the fermenting rhubarb. I lifted the lid off of this one here. There is a fairly fine mesh underneath that lid, and smelled it, and it smells a little sweet even though there's no added sugar. The brine is a 3% salt solution, which is 1 liter of filtered water with 30 grams of kosher salt added. So I did this on 7/12, and my note there says it'll be ready on 7/26 if it does indeed take 2 weeks. So like I said, I don't really see any bubbling yet, and it's been fairly warm. It's starting to turn a little pink like rhubarb does, so we'll just have to wait and see. Hey friends, today is Wednesday and I am on a lunch break. I admit that I'm struggling a little bit today. My arm feels better when I'm able to take some ibuprofen and Tylenol. However, the ibuprofen and Tylenol bothers my stomach. So I'm feeling a little bit low today. And it's been quite warm here for the Pacific Northwest. I think Seattle is supposed to get into the low 90s, which I know is not warm relative to some of you who live in much warmer climates. It's probably going to be 85 where I am, and most houses here don't have air conditioning, so when it gets quite warm we have to turn on fans and resort to other ways of cooling down. And it doesn't really get too warm in the house until the late afternoon, but then it doesn't cool off very much at bedtime, so that's been a little bit of an issue, although I think we've been coping okay. So I came outside to sit on the porch and read out of this book that I'm still working on, and there's a really great paragraph I wanted to share. It's about our inner critic, and I really like it. It says, "Were we to meet this figure socially, this accusatory character, this internal critic, this unrelenting fault finder, we would think there was something wrong with him. He would just be boring and cruel. We might think that something terrible had happened to him, that he was living in the aftermath, the fallout of some catastrophe, and we would be right." That's by Adam Phillips, who I don't know who that is, but that paragraph really resonated with me and made me think about my inner critic, and that is something that I'm trying to address as I work through this book. All that to say, I would like to get this vlog out today. I feel like it's probably not as cohesive as some of the previous ones, but that's the way I've been feeling this week. I will share a half-finished object. I finished a sock this morning, and the other sock is might be a completely finished object by the time I do my regular podcast. So on that note, I will bid you a fond farewell. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next episode.